Yep. Hi, y'all. This is KC Wagon Seller. You can call me Wagon. I'm here with my friend Rob. We're going to be discussing a couple important topics that have been kind of weighing on our hearts and wanting to kind of share these ideas with people and seeing if we can possibly gain some traction on them. So, with that introduction, I'm going to hand it over to my man Rob. Tell him about yourself, man.
Hey guys, my name is Rob Williams. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, just recently discharged. I'm currently in school, and I'm also pursuing an acting career, and I'm trying to expand also into producing a little bit. Just started my own company for productions, and yep, here I am. So yeah.
And you can find me at www.bestwagon.com. That's bestwagen.com. I write about several things, including drug policy reform, currency, immigration, all kinds of things, like education, history. So, come check it out. Gun rights, talk about gun rights. So, just wanted to hand you back over to you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna try to do a quick round table here because the battery might run out here in a minute, and we're gonna do the best we can to beat it. So, my first topic: law enforcement protocol. I think that there's been too many, and just because we use cameras and smartphones now to see this happening. There have been too many wrongful arrests, wrongful assault, and wrongful death done by police. There needs to be some transparency about their protocol. Yep. That's the basic. That's it.
Well, their protocol just altogether needs reform. If they used a military protocol, which you would think they would, because they copy a lot of things from the military, a lot of them are veterans. If they used a military protocol, then there would be a lot less deaths in the street because they would understand the rules of deadly force, opportunity, intent, and capability. Whenever a person exhibits those three qualities, at that point, they're legally allowed to be taken out. And that's what they taught me in the military, working security and weapons. And so, I don't know where I was going with that. But, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, well, and to close with that, I'll just say there needs to be an increased amount of organizing, in my opinion, in forming or reforming organizations or society or community dedicated to being a watchdog of law enforcement at a local level, at a regional level, and definitely at a state and national level. There needs to be more community involvement in watching our law enforcement and making sure that it's our responsibility to police ourselves is really what I'm saying on that topic.
Well, not just ourselves, but even police the police, call them out on these kinds of things. Look, guys, if you actually abide by some sort of a military code that I was trying to explain earlier, then there would be a lot less incidents of innocent people, especially kids, being gunned down in the streets, not by 2 bullets to the chest, but by like 16 bullets to the body. That's excessive force. In the military, if somebody had lit somebody up 16 times, they would have been court-martialed. Whereas if it would have been 2 to the chest or 2 to the chest and 1 to the head, it would have been like, cool, you did your job. So,
what's the next topic?
All right. Mass incarceration. So, in my blog, I write about how slavery lives. That's the title of the blog, Slavery Lives. And so, there are many ways that we are basically still held in slavery today, and mass incarceration is definitely one of them. It's the statistic is that 1 in 23 Caucasians are arrested and put away in jail, sometimes prison or federal prison, for a cannabis or alcohol related offense. Whereas whenever it comes to a minority, like especially the African American community, it's 1 in 3. And we're talking about people who lose their right to vote, who lose their right to bear arms, who lose their right to free speech, who become enslaved to the system, and they spend 30 of their 50 years in jail. And while they're in jail, they're working for some sort of a company for free, some sort of a company. The private prison system itself is benefiting off of these slaves, and these companies make deals with these private prison systems, and they perpetuate that. And these companies are the companies that lobby millions of dollars to fight cannabis legalization, because they know that it's going to impact the private prison system, and it's going to impact these companies who are profiting off of slavery.
Well said. I think there have been, in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, well, not 5 to 10, 5 to 6 years, haven't there been multiple requests for reduction of overcrowding in prisons? You know, mass incarceration, we can go in multiple different directions in talking about why there is mass incarceration. We got racism, we got the war on drugs, we got military industrial complex, we got the private prison system. I mean, we got the private police system in this country. I mean, again, there's multiple different avenues we can take in going in talking about mass incarceration. But I think the first thing I would look at is, why are there so many cases or requests to reduce overcrowding? Why are the state the state judiciary system, or the state judiciary branch of government, or the legislative possibly having to, overwork themselves to define why we have such a high rate of incarceration in this country? Like, we need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly it. I think what we're seeing some reform in drug policy, especially in places like Colorado, Washington, Oregon, even Washington, D.C., and there's this overall just, okay, we accept this, people are stoners, whatever it is. I mean, you can have your opinions about it. It makes you dumb. It makes you smart. It makes you healthy. It makes you sick. But people are going to do it. They've been doing it for a long time. They're not going to stop. And to continue to wage a heinous war over behavior that is not really dangerous is just sickening. And it is used to target minorities. It is used to prop up these big businesses that are profiting off this slavery, and it's got to end. And we can start by boycotting, these businesses. We can do marches and kind of go from there.
All righty, next topic. Let's talk about GMO. All right. Well, I mean, if we take a step back, I think that it's ridiculous that we live in a country where the Supreme Court decides it's okay to tell a corporation that you don't have to label your foods, and to say that I mean, you're the libertarian here, so I feel like your perspective may help me understand the angle of why we even have to talk about this. But I'll just say that it shows the de-evolution of society, or of the human race, when we finally when we start seeing people look for different ways to kill other people. Like, we go from nuclear warfare to the drug war to gun control because of how many people have access to guns. I mean, like, we're looking for so many different ways to kill each other. Why? Why? And then, like, this is, I mean, it's not really new, but it's ultimately one of the latest trends, in my opinion, in the last 2 to 4 years, been the latest trend of, okay, why is a company like Monsanto getting so much influence in how people eat their food? They don't want people to even know that they put chemicals that could be, like, they don't want you to know they put, we said this last night, They don't want you to know they put mercury in the Rice Krispies, and they still want you to be able to buy it like as if it's the same as the labeled brand of Rice Krispies. And it's, I don't know. I'd like, I'll just yield to you.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And as a libertarian, I think they have a right to sell Rice Krispies on the shelf with mercury. But for God's sakes, let's put on there that it's got mercury in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if people don't want to read a label, or if people like mercury, I don't know. I mean, they do what they want. So it's not my place to tell them how to live their lives. What it is my place to do is to ensure that they have the freedom and the responsibility and the liberty to live their lives as they see fit, assuming they're not hurting other people, assuming they're not stealing from other people, assuming that they are a functioning member of society that is courteous, kind, respectful, and tells the truth. And I feel like that's, something that would make our parents and grandparents proud.
I don't fully agree with the statement, but I understand the basis of it. I think, I'll point out what I disagree with. I don't think that it's okay for a company like Monsanto to even exist in the first place. Their direct angle when approaching the federal government is we don't want people to know that we could be putting experimental chemicals that could destroy the human body from the inside out, inside of everyday food. They don't want people to know that they're doing that. Now, you have the Surgeon General label on cigarettes, yes, and people still buy them, absolutely. And I think that's ultimately the reason that if you're still, I think it's empty. Yeah, if you're still willing to buy the product and you know what's in it, then it's on you. But I mean, to try to change the law to say you don't have to put that label in or put your company label on here to know that this is the people. When your child gets cancer because they ate mercury in their Rice Krispies, that's an easy one for me. I'm sorry. Then that they ultimately throw that in your face and say, well, you didn't have to buy them. So.
Well, and here's the reason why I kind of hold to the stance that I hold is like I get where you're coming from when you're like Monsanto shouldn't even exist, and it's corrupt and it's wicked, and I agree with you. But the problem with it is whenever you start even doing things like that, then it's easy to be like, well, guns kill people. Let's get them off the streets. Whenever the stats prove otherwise, in my opinion, but with anything, I mean, it works that way with anything. So it's important to look at the topic from that perspective, and I'm gonna be honest and admit I lost my train of thought. So what was I saying?
Let's just go ahead and move on to the next topic, because we're trying to catch the light there. I think it's on you.
On me? Renewable energy. So one of the biggest secrets about cannabis that a lot of people do not know and that a lot of people don't understand for some reason is that you can take hemp. It's Cannabis ruderalis. There's Cannabis sativa, and then Cannabis indica, and then Cannabis ruderalis. Cannabis ruderalis is hemp, which is basically a no THC hemp, high in CBDs, so it can still be strained out for medicines, for oils, for tinctures, for vape juice, or for whatever else. Then Cannabis sativa is actually an upper, and it can be an indica dominant hybrid, or a sativa dominant hybrid, or it can be a straight sativa, or a 50-50. Those exist too. And then there's indica. Same thing with indica. You have indica, full-blown indicas, indica hybrids, indica dominant hybrids, and then 50-50s. And so those plants can not only be used for medicine, but they can be used for paper. I mean, the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp. People are now starting to create like hemp pens. It can be made into wood. It can be made into concrete. It can be made. You can build homes with hemp, and it's like extremely, extremely resistant to mold, mildew, pests. Like pests don't want anything to do with it. So people are building homes out of this stuff, and it's like changing how we think of construction and all these industries, chemistry. So you can take isopropyl alcohol or even Everclear and strain it through cannabis or strain it through hemp and create a wax that way. You can also create like a fuel. So like the cannabis mixed with the Everclear creates like a fuel that you can run your car on if you put the right engine in there. So same with the distilling alcohol. If we distilled alcohol and made our own moonshine, not only to drink, but we could degrease engines and we could run engines, or we could just straight up run engines off of water. There's a guy down in South America who manufactured a bike that ran like 80 miles on 1 gallon of water. So, I mean, there's all sorts of possible outcomes when it comes to engineering breakthroughs in this next coming decade or so, 2 decades even, technologically as well. More stuff with the cloud and different technologies that we're going to see, more wireless, more faster data networks, that kind of stuff.
You talked a lot about cannabis and when dealing with renewable energy, mainly hemp, I assume, right?
Well, hemp and cannabis. Hemp and cannabis, not all three strains of the cannabis plant, the sativa, the indica, and the ruderalis.
Okay. Well, what do you see as the ultimate barriers to utilizing these resources for renewable energy?
Well, because we have a bunch of conservatives, and they call themselves conservatives, but they're not true conservatives. Republicans in name only, rhinos, and they're stubborn, and they're just like, well, you just want to legalize cannabis so you can go to the local store and pick it up. And it's like, well, that's true. I mean, there's like 5% of that's true, but there's this other 95% that I keep trying to point out to you, and all you hear is you want to get high, and that is a conversation I have with so many Texans. In California, it was much more accepted. I mean, it was much more accepted in California, and it's that way out on the West Coast. It was that way in Colorado. When I went to Colorado, it was just like you'd meet people at bars, and they're like, yo, dude, you want to come back and eat a meal and hit a dab with us? A couple dabs? And you're like, of course. And then your wife's like, where'd you go? And she's calling you, but your phone's dead, and so you're having to like call them from some stranger's phone. And, I had many of those kind of experiences in Colorado, and it's just, whenever after each experience, you're never the same. Like it completely shatters everything you thought you knew about life, and it's definitely a thrill ride.
All right, and on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up because I saw that the battery light is blinking red, and I think we just made our time. So this is our second round table. We want to thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for us in the future.